Welcome to Inside City Hall. I'm your host, Mayor Seymore, and today we have Superintendent Kevin Brackney of the Shoals School District, and also the School Resource Officer, Brandon Clark. How are you today?
I'm good, sir.
Glad to have both of you today. School's starting. That's exciting.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about some of the changes that are taking place here with the start of school, what we can expect a little bit. We don't want to have chaos in the parking lots or anything like that. So,
well, the exciting thing is I think the community and the school is growing. We have made some changes internally with respect to our Whipple Ranch is now going to be the kindergarten, first and second grade. And Nicholas Homestead will be third, fourth, and fifth.
Okay.
We have changed the ingress and egress of our traffic flow, trying to accommodate parents and trying to keep the safety of the kids in mind as far as that goes. But this year is just looking to be an exciting year. People are excited to be back, and I'm excited to be here.
You know, I know school is, when does the official day of school start?
Starts August 6th.
August 6th.
So this next Thursday.
I mean, we starting always earlier, so summer becomes shorter, everything.
It's actually the same time with the way the calendar works, but it does seem like our summers keep getting shorter and shorter.
And things that way. One of the differences then, now Central being, because we're going to have the K through 3 down there at Whipple Ranch, right?
K2.
K2.
Right.
What changes do you see as a resource officer for traffic, things like that people need to be aware of?
The biggest thing about that area specifically is any of the kids that are going to be in the area are going to be very small. They're going to be little kids, harder to see, and you can't always determine what they're going to do when they're walking down the street. So, you know, slow your speeds down, make sure we're paying attention in that area, so that we're able to see those little kids and be able to make sure, you know, we don't have any type of incidences back there.
You know, that street is a zero tolerance of almost all of the streets in Shoals. That one being especially during the school season, people need to be aware that it's actually zero tolerance, and that speed limit drops from 25 down to 15 miles per hour on there in the crosswalks, and that is a big change. These younger children, they don't understand. It's their first time of traffic. Many parents, it's their first time they've let their kids maybe walk to school or on their own. So as a public, we really need to be careful in that area.
And I think that's something we need to point out also. It's just patience. It's the start of a new year. Parents are wanting to drop off their kids. Traffic is going to be heavy, especially at certain times of the day. And I think we need to give ourselves a little bit more time to get to where we need to be. And just be patient.
Right. And it's one of those things that's posted that those fines will be doubled. And as a mayor, I strictly would encourage anybody who got caught speeding through there to really throw it to them. I had a person just yesterday from the community voice his concerns that he's been on Central there. He's seen people drag racing down that street. He's seen people pass on that street. And of all streets, especially during school time, that's basically not. And you know, we don't ever want to have one of those children, you know,
no, not at all,
not make it home or not make it to school because somebody just wasn't thinking. And so that's great. Tell us a little bit about the parking lot. We have some changes now. You know, let me back up a little bit. One of the things that we're happy to have is a partnership between the city of Shoals and the Shoals School District. We enter into an intergovernmental agreement which allows us to use some of your facilities and allows you to use some of our facilities. And then we kind of partner together on many things. And one of the things that's going to be evident is recently we was able to work together of getting the parking lot sealed, and where it restriped over there, it looks really good. But you know, we appreciate that. We appreciate that partnership of being able to have that between the schools.
Yeah, and I think our community needs to understand the commitment that the city has with the school district and vice versa, and the relationship with the county. Supervisor Williams has just done an awesome job in helping support us. You have Ed Mooter, Jimmy Jane, and all the folks that came together to help make that possible. If we had to have those services, and the city did and the county did, we would be duplicating services. And I think that folks need to understand the commitment that as public leaders, we have to keeping the tax dollar as low as possible and providing those quality services. And our district certainly does appreciate the city and the county for the support in helping us out.
Well, we appreciate you and thank you as well. One of the great things we had, I think we had a great 4th of July. We weren't sure whether or not we were going to get the fireworks in this year. We're grateful to have the rain, but it's one of those things that's a facility that you open up to the city to be able to use. And there's some places that the schools just won't do that. And they say this is our school, and we don't have that intermixing there at all. But we appreciate that. Tell us a little bit. We did close one school, or recently we sold a school. Here's another kind of agreement that's happening. We sold the Clay Springs, or you sold the Clay Springs school facility to the county. And we want to touch base on that a little bit.
A few years ago, we also sold the Pinedale building to the county, and it's kind of interesting that the county now can use Clay Springs and Pinedale as a staging area to help save gas cost of getting repairs or things done to the various communities and the needs they might have. But in doing that, the communities come out and is helping remodel those buildings, and keeping that building in the community allows them to use it for. I think the Pinedale Heritage Club is doing some classes and things like that there. Clay Springs is the same way. So we're glad that we have that relationship and can keep those buildings in our community. It really works out well.
That's great. Brandon, share with us a little bit with your role of working as a resource officer there at the school. What do you do to help instill safety, or what is your main focus that you do with the youth?
I think there's several hats. It's a grant-funded position. So there's two of us. There's Officer Alan Rogers at the high school, and I'm assigned to the junior high school. And basically, I think one of the main focuses is to build relationships with kids, to be able to allow them to know that we're there for them. It's unfortunate, in today's world, but sometimes kids they don't see officers except when we're enforcing laws, and so they never get an opportunity to get to know us outside of that role. So it gives us an opportunity to do that. We are required to do 90 hours of instruction, of teaching. So we take issues that may be going on in the schools, issues with kids. We can relate those to laws, and we go in, and it's called law-related education. We go in and we talk to them. We do lessons. We talk about bullying. We talk about internet, social media, anything to try to keep them from making bad choices or things that might end up getting them in trouble, and try to be preventive in that instead of reactive. So we're there for security. You'll see me in uniform on campus 95% of the time. Same with Officer Rogers. We just want to be a presence there to make sure our schools are safe. But outside of that, we coach, we do all that kind of stuff. So we get as involved as we can.
Do you work with coordinating with the school or with the people that are the principal of those schools for safety drills, and how often do we have a safety drill?
We do. We'll coordinate with them for fire and lockdown drills. The lockdown drills we try to do probably 2 a semester. That way we know that we're proficient at it. The kids are being instructed from kindergarten on up. They know what to do when somebody that threatens our campuses comes on campus. So we just want to reiterate that to where we know how to respond, and hope for that day never comes, but we're prepared for it.
There are a lot of different programs out there in case you do have an incident that happens in your community. What are the roles? What are the procedures? From cell phone. There's a lot of things now that kids are walking to school or having their own cell phones, their own smart systems that they have. So it's even more difficult sometimes, because if you did have an incident, you got parents calling kids, and all that traffic of communication can all of a sudden happen. The mom might be telling the child, do this, do that, and yet you're trying to instruct them to do something else. And so hopefully, in your system that you talk about that a little bit as well. And,
absolutely.
One of the things when we have too many drills, then pretty soon when there's a real drill, that's just the alarm. It went off. I'm not even going to get out and leave out of the building. But how do you find the responsiveness to when you do have a mock drill?
With the fire drills, you're less likely, I think, to get injured in a school in a fire. If you go into a school, you see fire alarm, sprinkler systems. We got everything in place to make sure we stay safe. So the lockdowns, we want the kids to take them serious. They do, for the most part, take them serious. You know, and we don't run them every month, because exactly that. We want, when they're called, that they take them appropriate action and do what they need to do.
How's our drugs? How's our drug situation? You know, you're basically there at the junior high. You know, let's not sugarcoat this too much, but there really are drugs that happen in the school.
There is. I mean, and it just depends. I mean, you know, each kid lives a different home life, and each kid's different parenting styles, different things, and so they're, you know, exposed to different things. But we have had some drug issues. I think the main ones, well, junior high school, you're seeing more alcohol, tobacco. There's here and there, you're going to find a marijuana case or some prescription drugs. At the high school, it branches out a little bit more than that. But those are our main ones that we see issues with. But it's not an everyday occurrence with, I mean, we'll see cases of them, but,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But
So-
the issue and well, with the relationship building that Brandon and Alan do with the kids, that's the most important thing. When that relationship is built between the students, the staff, and the officer, the number of times kids come to you and tell you what's going on outside of school, in school, has what, tripled, quadrupled the number of the relationship you have there with them?
I would say a majority of what goes on with the kids, I wouldn't say everything, but a majority of what goes on. If there's a weekend party, I think we have a pretty good grasp of what's going on.
Right. What's happening there.
The kids, it's amazing. I mean, we've developed relationships with them where they feel comfortable talking to us,
That's good.
which is a
It
good
makes
thing.
a huge
Yeah.
difference in
Oh,
our
it is.
community.
You know, and I think that's one of the blessings that we still have of the smaller community where you're involved with coaching, where people are involved. They see you in other places at church or maybe at an activity, rather than just all of a sudden, oh, that's the police officer,
Right.
or things of that way. So
Right.
it's great in our community. Let's talk a little bit about, you know, changes maybe in the philosophy of teaching. With things that are coming out. I mean, the introduction right now of Windows 10 and some of the things that you have that we can just take the computer and put it over here in cyberspace and switch it around. But what do you see as maybe some of the technology changes that's going to be coming into the classroom?
It'll be a while before we can afford Windows
Right.
10, but we are trying to stay up and abreast of all the new things that are going on. We're putting smart boards in all the classrooms, K-8, especially in your core courses throughout the district. Math and reading, English, we put smart boards in at the high school. The cost of providing the training for the teachers that have not had that stuff is still there. It's still a challenge for us. Our budget's been cut by almost $7 million over the last 6 or 7 years. So it does make it difficult, but with respect to the new teaching styles, standards, and things like that, we're up to speed on those. Academically, our staff does a phenomenal job, and the importance is not so much, it is the teaching obviously, but it's the relationship that the family plays in the education of kids. If you look, the kids that are successful are the ones that have those strong family ties. So when a child comes home and they have homework and mom and dad say, what do you got tonight? And those kids get that out, and when that relationship is there, kids academically achieve a lot better. So instructional wise, we're keeping up with those new changes and challenges, but
This year I had a grandchild, her second day of kindergarten. She comes home, Mom, I'm exhausted. Is there any way you could do my homework for me? You know, but it's
that's a smart
it's
kid.
start. It's the things that way. She's pretty on the ball, but it's just kind of interesting and exciting that we do understand the core value of family. That it does make a difference in our community.
Huge difference.
It makes a difference of where do those kids go, where do they turn, that support group, like you say, of
if
making
parents,
it happen.
When kids come home, and if you have an opportunity at dinner time to ask one question, what was the most fun thing you did at school today? And let those kids talk about that stuff. Eventually he'll get over to the trials and things that they go through as a child, whether it be with peers or staff, teachers, or whatever it is. But as parents, if we can just ask that one question, what was the most fun thing you did today at school? Doesn't matter whether your kid's a senior or a kindergarten student. If they can ask that and get that conversation going, then you can sit back and it's amazing what the kids will tell you. And then as a parent, you can make the decision you need to do.
Right.
But be involved with your child's education is the best thing for them.
You mentioned earlier that some of the budget cuts that you've had up to $7 million in budget cuts over the years. What have you had to cut out to be able to adjust, or where do you see our classrooms getting larger, the size? What is the impact that that's had on our teachers and maintaining the quality of teachers that we should?
When you have 15 to 20 kids in a classroom, you can take the time to get to each one of those kids every 30 minutes or so and see how they're doing and what they're doing. When you get to 28 or 30 kids, that effectiveness as a teacher obviously drops off tremendously. We've done everything we can to keep our class sizes small. In the elementary grades, around 25. Some go up a little higher, some go a little lower. Junior high and high school are going to be right around 30 kids, plus or minus a little bit. So we've done everything we can with respect to class sizes with our budget. Where we're really getting hit this year is we should be receiving about $1.5 million in capital. That is money that we use to buy books, textbooks, classroom books, buses, desks, tables, make repairs on buildings and infrastructure, things like that. We're getting $200,000.
Wow.
We just to balance the budget, the state budget on the backs of our kids is not fair. No. It's been a challenge. It will continue to be, but the frustration is over time is when you're going to see that the wear and tear on buses, the wear and tear on the buildings, and just like the parking lot that we did this year. It was 10 years ago when we actually resealed that parking lot and had that done in '05. When I first came on board, and we should be doing that every 5 years. Every 5 years.
So all those things get out, and sooner or later we're going to have issues with building and maintenance and things that way. Brandon, share with me a little bit your relationship, because you're a resource officer. Then you go back into the regular police department. Okay, you don't spend very much time outside of that, but what do you help the other policemen understand about in our schools?
We, with the regular patrol, we talk about, we teach them about the lockdowns. We teach them our response, what we teach the kids, so that if they were to come in, they know exactly what to do. I think we're very proactive, a very proactive agency in that. It's trying to get them to, over in the schools, you got to remember that you were a kid once, and understand where these kids are coming from. And I think sometimes as patrol officers, they tend to forget that. And so I think when dealing with kids and dealing with them out there, that, if they can allow us to deal with it the day after or whatever, I think it's just a different way of dealing with the kids, because we can bring in, we tend to know what's going on in the big picture, parents and everybody else, but we have access to counselors, we have access to the faculty, we have resources. It's just that we're a resource to be able to pull in whatever we need to be able to help these kids. Right. One thing we really preach is restorative. When I first came into the schools, we talked about restorative justice. Kids are going to make mistakes. We hope that they're not so damaging that it ruins their life, but we want them to learn from it. We want them to make amends with it, to make amends with the community, the people the victim and whatever they may have done, but be able to be back in good standings. Right. And so, another program that we worked with Judge Price on is the teen court program. It's been around now. We brought it back, 7 years ago? I think when I brought it back with Judge Price, we sat down and got the teen court. So, even kids that have been arrested, those cases can go through. The schools are now sending discipline through, and it's basically a court ran completely by students. Right. So the students are the ones, they have to stand before their peers and say, I messed up and here's what I did, and the peers are the ones handing out the consequence to make it right. That's really which is a good thing. So, well,
I think we're blessed, and to have the opportunities. You don't always get that in the larger community. Yeah. And just for you. I mean, you're an award-winning resource officer, one of the very best in the state of Arizona, if not the best as far as the awards that you've received. And to have that accreditation and to have that available at our resources, it's another one of those partnerships of us having a police officer, although it's funded through a grant that you're able to have. If we didn't continue to have that grant, then it would be more difficult to have a resource officer in the school. But to have one in the junior high and one in the high school is fantastic. But you know, these are just some things of a community working together to raise our children and to make things happen with the schools. And just touch base real quickly here. I know the charter school emphasis that some people are saying, but share with us a little bit about how our kids stack up in academically to the local charter schools here versus other areas, how we're doing.
We're doing very, very well, and it's our staff and our community. It's a partnership that helps kids be successful, and I think at Sholo we've got the best. That relationships, we do very well academically. Exactly. Well, when I first came as a district, we were struggling academically. Depending on what you looked at, we were last place in the White Mountains. But because of the SRO program, Farrell Adams, great administrators, great teachers, and a great community, and pulling together our resources for the benefit of our kids has just turned things around tremendously. Now we're in the top 3. We've been #1 academically in the White Mountains for a number of years, and we're going to continue to strive to get those opportunities for our kids.
That's fantastic, because as the community grows, one of the emphasis is education. And if we're not going to educate them properly and help them, then we've got to do the alternative, which is incarcerate them. So, you know, hopefully we can understand that the two that work together. I mean, it's part of it. Gentlemen, I appreciate you having you on our show today. It's been great having you, and thanks for visiting with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Again, thanks for watching us here on Inside City Hall. If you have any questions, you can call us here at the city, and we'll try to answer them on the next show. Thank you, and have a great day.